All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless Dave here, talking about real music, doing it in real time for a few real people out there just like you and just like me. All right, so Joe Elliott basically says, just throw in the towel. Taylor Swift, she's greater than anything ever. All right, this according to Joe Elliott. I'm going to do a little commentary. Of course, if you don't know who Joe Elliott is, he's still the lead singer for Def Leppard. And I like Joe Elliott. I like Def Leppard. I'm a big fan. But before I talk about that, which again, I'm going to be yelling at the kids on the front lawn from the porch. And Joe Elliott, by the way, predicts this in the article. So it's kind of interesting. Here's a band you should check out. #1 song right now over on Endangered CDs. My friend Tony, that's the other Tony, by the way. I have several friends named Tony. He runs this chart called EndangeredCDs.com. The #1 song on there is When Spirits Fight by this amazing band called Vitalines. Vitalines features my friend Robbie LeBlanc, just an insanely good singer. Just, I don't know. Every time I think of how well Robbie sings, I'm just depressed because he should be bigger than Taylor Swift, but he should be at least Lou Graham, right? He should be Lou, or he should be somebody of that caliber. But anyway, this project features both my friend Robbie LeBlanc and guitarist Tommy Denander, who is kind of like a poor man's version of Steve Lukather, right? So if you like Luke, you probably like Tommy. They're a little different, but I think Tommy has some Luke characteristics. Anyway, this is some great music. It is straight up AOR. Hard to say what this sounds like. It could be a little bit of Survivor, a little bit of Foreigner. I don't know. You'll have to go listen to it. #1 song right now over on EndangeredCDs.com, a chart that I know about and you should know about too. All right, so this is what Joe Elliott had to say about Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is bigger than the Beatles and the Rolling Stones combined, according to Def Leppard frontman. He recently spoke to Billboard magazine, recalling his performing parts on Taylor Swift's Love Story during rehearsals 16 years ago, and shared his admiration for her as an artist. By the way, if you go back and look at that footage, and my buddy Jeff Scott Soto pointed this out to me, you've got now these older dudes, grizzled-looking dudes, hanging around with very young women, in some cases, very young women, right? And sometimes you sing these lyrics, and the lyrics back in the day, you didn't really think about those lyrics too much. So caught up in you, little girl, right? I don't know if that works right now. I don't know. A guy who's 70-something shouldn't be caught up with a little girl, all right? But what do you do with that, right? Do you change the lyrics? Do you stop singing the song? I mean, I don't want to be too politically correct or whatever, but it's not about political correctness. It's about how strange the world has become. So it didn't look really good when I went back and watched Joe Elliott with, I believe, a 17-year-old Taylor Swift. And Joe was probably, 50-ish or so? I don't know. But anyway, this is what Joe Elliott has to say here. I think we'd all be lying if we said we knew she was going to become as big as she has, because she's actually bigger than anything that's ever been before. So he's saying Taylor Swift is and it may bear out. The numbers may bear out, but I am going to make a couple of comments here on how he came to this conclusion and why things are a little different now compared to, say, 1967, all right? So, again, she's probably bigger than the Beatles and the Stones combined for her generation of fans. He says, I'll probably get lynched by some 75-year-old reading this. Oh, I think you go down a few years, Joe. 65, 55. Anyway, I'll probably get lynched by some 75-year-old, but it's all relative. He goes on to say, today it's all about the streaming numbers and all that kind of stuff. Now, full stop right there. Okay, so he's saying because of the massive streaming numbers. Now, keep in mind, there was no streaming for the Rolling Stones and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and the Who. There was no streaming. All right. Fans went out and purchased physical products. Weird, huh? And you would bring it home and you'd have a device that would play it, whether that be a turntable, a cassette player, an 8-track tape player. Later on, of course, you had the CDs come out, and that was a big deal. But, you owned something. You bought something. You took pride in the fact that you owned that piece of art, which it was, still is, right? If you're still buying CDs, very few people are. But it's hard to compare that era with this current era where you don't have to own anything. You don't have to purchase Taylor Swift music. Yeah, the streams add up for her. And, it's weird because they'll run some ads if you're not a monthly subscriber to Spotify or any of the other music platforms. Then you'll have to listen to a few commercials and then you'll hear your song, right? You can go on to YouTube. You might have to sit through a couple of ads. You can click through some of the ads. But the bottom line is the artist is still raking in the money, even just having it on these platforms. So it's a very different way to fish for revenue as opposed to, gee, I hope somebody goes out and purchases my new album. Doesn't matter if they purchase your new album anymore. If you've got a big song and people want to download it, okay, there are people, I'm sure, downloading the Taylor Swift stuff, but there are a lot of fans who are going out there and just streaming it, getting it for free. So it's a little bit, I don't want to say disingenuous, but it's kind of like an apples and oranges comparison here that Joe Elliott is making about, it's all about the streaming numbers. He says there's been a lot of massively successful bands, but she's taken success to a level that is unheard of. It's absolutely mad. It's success beyond anything that anybody could have ever dreamed of, probably herself. Now, I'm not denying, right? I am not denying that Taylor Swift isn't she's a very big deal, right? But this also speaks to the fact that rock and roll has thrown in the towel. It's just thrown in the towel. Like Joe Elliott, yeah, I love Taylor Swift. What? Isn't there something else? Like, she doesn't really need your help, right? It's like when America starts sending monies to foreign countries to fight wars. They don't really need our help. Let them figure it out themselves. Taylor Swift is doing great. So to come out and say, oh, she's just bigger than the Beatles and the Stones combined. Okay, now what, right? Do we even attempt to get rock and roll somewhat back in the limelight? I mean, the last 35 years or so, we'll say, well, maybe not 35. We'll say about 32 or so have been really bad for rock and roll. And it doesn't show any signs of stopping. This is just the pop stuff, the hip hop stuff. This is why you have A Tribe Called Quest and Mary J. Blige going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. None of it even makes sense. Taylor Swift, when is she eligible to go in? She started when she was like 13? So you add 25. I think she's eligible now to go in. So when are the judges going to make that decision to put Taylor in there? I mean, she sung beside Joe Elliott, even though it was kind of creepy looking. So she's obviously performed some rock and roll. Dolly Parton hadn't even performed any rock and roll. So by the new standard, Taylor should be in. I mean, look, if the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame wants to make money, right, and wants to get attention, of course they'll put Taylor Swift in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It's so sad to even figure this. I'm just figuring it out as I'm talking to you guys, and it's sad. So again, Joe Elliott continues here, and then I think I'm just going to stop talking because this is just depressing. He says, so basically in the womb, she was listening to Pyromania and Hysteria because her mom was a big fan. She was born to Def Leppard, basically. And, you know, when this is another weird thing. So when Joe Elliott performed with Taylor Swift, they were on country music television. Because if you remember, Taylor Swift kind of started out more country. Toby Keith, I think, discovered Taylor Swift. And so she was more over there. So why is Def Leppard music being played? This is where it just, all of this, it doesn't matter. Music, gender bending, whatever this is, it's all music. No, people I have different tastes in music, but Def Leppard does not belong on country music television, right? But maybe Taylor Swift did at the time, just like that time, what was it? Vince Neil showed up at the Grand Ole Opry. What was that all about? I mean, this is just getting bizarre, especially considering what that new Motley Crue song sounds like. It's not very country. Little spoiler alert. So if you go listen to it. Anyway, it's weird. If you go back and look at the performance between Joe Elliott and Taylor Swift, to me, almost looks like a living doll. I mean that in a literal way. She looks so much like the creation of like Mattel or Hasbro. All right. I know that sounds kind of mean, but her look, the way she carries herself, the way she dresses, she's bigger than anything else right now, but it's just sad to see rock and roll just throwing in the towel and basically saying, grifting, like, all right, well, if you can't beat her, let's join her. Let's see if she'll let us perform with her. Let's see if she'll do one of our songs, you know? And that's what this has been reduced to. Rock and roll. Look, the only way rock is going to come back is if, number one, the people demand that it comes back. Number two, the infrastructure supports it and says, yes, we're going to have rock stations that aren't playing this dark, just miserable music that they've been playing for 30 years. And these bands, even the names of these bands are depressing. You're like, okay, do I really want to listen to Slipknot? No, not really. No, I don't want to listen to Slipknot. But this is the difference. Taylor Swift is operating in this sunny, happy, joyful rainbows and lollipops world, and rock and roll doesn't have to be that poppy, but it could move a couple of degrees in that direction to maybe get some people listening again, because you kind of need melody in music. I know this is a crazy concept, but you need some melody. And right now, there isn't a lot of melody over in the doom and depressing world of rock and roll in the year 2024. There's a couple of bands, but that's not enough. It needs to be the predominant thing. Like people in the old days used to compete to write the biggest hook, right? The greatest intro to a song, the greatest guitar solo. Oh, guitar solos, it's a waste of time. I don't have the attention span for guitar solos. And this is why you've got Taylor Swift. And then you've got, like 5 guys doing all the production in today's pop. And you've got like 3 guys writing like 90% of it. So I don't know, folks. I don't know how you defeat this. And Joe Elliott, just, if you can't beat him, join him. Taylor Swift is the greatest. It's fine. But maybe find somebody who's up and coming and lift them up a little bit and talk about how, wow, look at them. Organic music. They play their own instruments and you can hear everything and it's not overly produced and they're writing their own songs. I mean, who's doing that stuff nowadays? These old geezer bands, by the way, I'm going to wrap this up shortly. I just keep going off on tangents. But the old geezer bands, rather than just doing these packages, like 3 bands that you've heard a bazillion times, Styx, 38 Special, REO Speedwagon, and Loverboy. How about you have like an up and coming artist opening up for one of these older bands? Something that's good, that the audience would go, okay, I've never heard this before, but this is good. And if you don't want to hear it, you just get to the show later. But this is the concept known as the opening band. All right. I know that's crazy, right? I think I saw Coney Hatch or somebody like that opening up for Loverboy. Those are two Canadian bands, by the way, but I didn't know who Coney Hatch was. But I was pretty impressed. I was like, these guys are good. And then I searched out, I think I purchased at least one of their albums. But that's how you learn about new things, because people aren't learning from the radio anymore. So why not give some of these up and coming bands some exposure? Is it too late to do that? It might be. It might be too far gone. The patient is on life support. So it is what it is, folks. One more plug for some music you can listen to. Vital Lines, Wheels Within Wheels, featuring the #1 hit song, When Spirits Fight, which is the #1 song over on the endangeredcds.com chart, run by my good friend Tony G, who is over there doing the Lord's work and keeping this music alive, at least on the internet. It's really sad what's going on. Every so often I find a song and I'll post it on the Patreon page for this channel. And people are like, where did you find this? Because it's not easy. Every so often I find a song and I post it over there, something that is new that people might like to listen to. And every so often I'll showcase a band and I'll actually purchase the CD myself. The record label won't send it to me. And this is why pop is just going to be dominant for probably at least another generation or two, until I don't know what happens, until everything just goes automated. And then it'll be, the battle of the avatars after that. All right. My name is Dave. Thanks for watching. God bless everyone. Please continue to pray for peace in the Middle East and around the world and in your own heart. Jesus Christ is Lord. Have yourself a great day.